Greetings, Latifah Faisal. How you doing, little fella? Guess what time it is? Story County, Iowa Supervisor Latifah Faisal knows George Fentanyl Floyd's name, a career criminal, a career drug addict, a man with multiple felonies who had a penchant for stealing things that are not his, and had a penchant for breaking into homes and terrorizing pregnant women. Latifah Faisal knows George Floyd's name, but does she know the names of these children that were murdered in St. Paul, Minnesota in 2019 and 2020? There's not a whole lot of these, but it's getting worse in the Twin Cities, so buckle up. By the way, the Twin Cities are also a massive Democrat enclave. Surprise, surprise. Police called to an apartment on April 23rd about an unconscious baby found, Zion Chea, 4 weeks old. He died at the hospital and was found to have multiple internal injuries. When police questioned his father, Orancy Chea, he said he'd lost his temper and thrown his crying infant son on the floor, according to a murder charge against Chea. Say his name. Latifah Faisal. A fight between two brothers ended when Devont Coppage, 17, being fatally stabbed on August 18th. Their mother said Eric James Young, 24, confronted his younger brother about being disrespectful toward her, and they fought, according to a criminal complaint, charging Young with murder. Actually, I got that one wrong. I was going over the kids, and I read that one wrong, and it's the older brother. But hey, good enough. Say his name anyway. Jorge Batres, 17, was found shot in a vehicle on September 1st. Witnesses told police that they heard gunshots following what appeared to be a struggle and observed an individual fleeing from the scene with a gun, according to a juvenile petition. A 14-year-old pleaded guilty to murder. Elijah Watson, 17, was driving a stolen vehicle when he handed a gun to a passenger, Javion Norbert Mayon Kone, if I'm getting that right, also 17, on December 14th. According to a juvenile petition, Kone wouldn't return the weapon to Watson. They argued, and Watson was fatally shot, said the court document charging charging Kohene with murder. Say his name. 3-year-old Levi Garday died of blunt force trauma on January 15th in children's hospitals and clinics of Minnesota. 3-year-old. His mother's boyfriend was charged with second-degree murder without intent and sentenced to 15 years in prison. Hey, Latifah Faisal, say Levi Garday's name. Say his name, Desk Pogue. Riley Taylor, 4 years old, died of probable hypothermia in his father's car on May 4th in St. Paul's Lower Town area. His father, Christopher Alexander Taylor, pleaded guilty to second-degree manslaughter. He received a stayed sentence, which was placed on probation for 10 years in order to serve a year in jail, half of which would be on electronic home monitoring. Daquan Jones Morris, a 17-year-old high school senior and football team captain, was fatally shot at a house on East Annapolis Street on November 6th. Two teenage friends were charged in what was reportedly an instance of a mishandled gun firing accidentally. A 16-year-old pleaded guilty to manslaughter. Alec Baldwin could talk to those boys about mishandling firearms, and Alec is an anti-gun nutter, so he knows his stuffs. Say Daquan's name, Latifah Faisal. Say his name. So there wasn't a whole lot. I mean, I could read off all the homicide victims, but when it's children, I think it hits home a little more. And again, Latifah Faisal knows George Floyd's name, but she doesn't know the names of all these children who have been murdered in Democrat-run enclaves in the last couple years. So say their names, Latifah Faisal, and ask her. Ask her to say their names. See what she says. See if Black lives really matter, or they only matter when it's national news and they get killed by the police. The black-on-black homicide occurring in these decaying urban centers where black bodies are piling up in alleys. That's not sexy. That doesn't sell newspapers, but when a cop does it, that sells newspapers. However, I will reiterate again as I wrap this up, the biggest threat to a young black male, specifically a young black male, especially in a Democrat-run, decaying inner city like Detroit, Baltimore, Chicago, Camden, Gary, Jackson, Mississippi, Memphis, etc., etc., et al. The biggest threat to a young black male is not white militia members, not the KKK, not the police, but other young black men. So we're going to keep pounding this drum and ask Latifah Faisal about this and see what she says. I bet she'll be rather quiet because black lives only matter when they're politically expedient.